Hey, folks, welcome back to another episode of Artist Stories of Middle Georgia. I'm your host, Victor Rigoli, and I have a wonderful guest with me today on the podcast, the one and only Colin Penndorf. Colin, thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Victor, such a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's awesome. You know, you and I got together. We've met and we've attended different events in downtown Macon, especially like First Fridays and things of that nature. And I think I met you the first time at a solo show that I did at Greenlight Gallery a year or two ago. And
Yep.
we've kind of contacted each other and gone back and forth. And you know, it's almost like phone tag. It's like I send something, you send something, and then finally it's like, hey, yeah, we're finally getting together. And it was so great to sit down with you last week and talk a little bit about art and what's going on in the Middle Georgia area, and then getting you on the podcast and possibly doing a show and that kind of thing of my artwork. So I'm real excited about that. But before we kind of get into your story, because you have a wonderful story to share with everybody today, I want to share with the audience your bio that you sent me. Okay, and folks, I'm going to do my best to get through this thing without stumbling over too many words and embarrassing myself. So hopefully I'll do it justice, Colin. Okay. All right. So after graduating college in 2016 from Middle Georgia State University, and by the way, I graduated from there too in 2014. So way to go. Uh,
Fantastic.
yeah. Colin helped to found the Ocmulgee Artist Guild. And of course, guys, he's going to talk a little bit about this later on. But as well, he became the fine arts director and curator for the 567 Center, and later the executive director of Triangle Arts Macon. And most recently, if that wasn't enough, has taken on his own arts and events management business called Shape and Space Art Management. I mean, that's a lot. Do you have any time to do anything else? Probably not. All right. So, but Colin has developed an intense passion towards innovative artistic projects, which has only grown stronger with the expanding revival of the artistic community in Macon, and spends his time promoting local artists, working on his own artwork, and helping artistic ideas flourish. The creativity in Macon is second to none, Penndorf says, having noticed the diverse amount of people, life stories, and individuals' desire for crafting a more vibrant city for those who call Macon home. Inspired by all the imaginative individuals who came before him, Colin continues to hone his ability to help expand the legacy of Macon and the ingenuity that is born here, including through his own work. What an awesome bio. I don't see how you have time to do anything, not even sleep and eat. You just got so much going on. But you've made such an impact on the arts in the Middle Georgia area, so I commend you for that and congratulate you on that. And it's an honor and privilege to have you on the podcast today.
Well, thank you. Those are very big words, and I really
Yeah.
appreciate it.
All right. Great. So, as I ask a lot of people, where does your artist story begin? So let's go back and start. Did it start at a young age? Was it something later in life that you took up? Or was it something that you pursued in college? Or where does it start?
So, it's kind of a smattering of all of the above. I was very lucky to grow up with two phenomenal parents, one of who always worked in IT and was the supporter of the arts, and one of who is a pianist and a professional musician and choral conductor. It's my father. So I grew up in a really musical household, and my parents were both in and out of bands, both when I was young and into my teenage years. I grew up on Theater Macon's stage in downtown Macon when I was younger. So
Okay.
when we moved down from Connecticut, my Macon in particular was a very different time in the 90s when we moved here, as
Oh
I'm
yeah.
sure you're
Oh yeah.
aware.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Most
And
definitely.
so, my dad in particular, who had done a lot of devised theater, he had worked for Wesleyan University up in Connecticut, as well as Trinity College.
Okay.
So he was really immersed into a lot of dance, theater, and music. And so we were looking for a home, in the creative community here when we got to Macon, and we found that over at Theater Macon.
Okay.
So I grew up on Theater Macon stage under the tutelage of Jim Crisp, or the direction of Jim Crisp, and youth actors, company directors like Katie Carr. So that is really where I got my beginning love for the whole creative realm. And I think
Okay.
theater was such a wonderful point to fall into because it wasn't just acting on the stage. When I joined the theater, I went all in. So, I mean, I did microphones and I ran sound, I did lighting and I ran the light board, I stage managed, I worked with Shelley Kewen up in the costume department and I helped do costumery. I really fell further into my leather working side of things through that costume department,
Okay.
and just really immersed myself into that theater. Doing that then led me into running a couple of local Middle Georgia Renaissance festivals when I was a teenager. And so that was kind of one of my first big loves. And so all of that, culminated in this desire to see creativity and artistic nature in the collective of a community, building something up. I mean, what theater really taught you was that you're going to audition for this show, you're going to spend 6 to 8 weeks every night with a brand new crew of people, you're going to open it for 2 weeks, and then it's done. And then
Right.
that's
Right.
it.
Yeah.
And then you're going to
Yeah.
move on to your next
Move
thing.
on to the next project. Yeah. Wow.
So that's really where, I kind of fell in love with the arts in general. And then shifting into college, I was undeclared. I did not declare a major when I first went
Right.
in.
Right.
They threw me accidentally into the business school. So I started taking business school classes.
Yeah.
Was not in the direction that I had anticipated for my life.
Right.
So I found they had just started doing this new degree called IDS, or interdisciplinary studies. So it's a longer form bachelor's degree where instead of specializing into one field, you kind of, do a larger overview of multiple fields and
Okay.
try to
Okay.
find a thread through it all. So for
Right.
my brain, for how I operated, going back to the theater where it was, I'm doing a little bit of this and I'm doing a little of that.
Yeah, you were a
That's
jack of all trades there, it sounded like, in the theater, and a lot of the behind the scenes things that happen that we just don't realize.
right, that nobody
A lot of
thinks
moving
about.
parts. Yeah.
One of the first lessons I really learned was I was in the middle of a show. It was called Enchanted April. Really, really lovely show. And it was a very contemplative scene in a church where the two main characters are trying to figure out their next move in life, and it kind of sets up the whole, continuation of the play. And I hit the wrong button, and I
Oh
played the
no.
choo-choo train right in the middle of the church scene.
Oh
And I
no.
will, and I will never forget the audience reacting to that as if I had, sneezed on somebody's mother.
Oh
I mean,
no.
like, and it really made me realize that in a lot of ways too, when it comes down to events and to, live artistic creation, we put in so much energy and effort to make sure that things go flawlessly, and
Right.
that's what makes something so magical. And the
Right.
second
Right.
that
Right.
you can do it right 1,000 times, but you do it wrong once and everybody notices. So
Yeah.
that was always something that I kind of a little antidote that stuck in my mind, where it's like, really, you can put all of this together and you can really immerse people into this feeling, this event. And just as easily, if you do something a little bit incorrectly, you can take them right back out of it.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's so true. So true. So the art side of things, you were talking, and I'm sorry I interrupted you a little bit there about talking about college and getting more of a broader perspective of things, with the degree and what have you, and you were getting into the theater side. So where does being a creative as an artist come into play?
So, right around the time of realizing that in college, the business side was not going to work, the interdisciplinary studies was something far more up my alley. It added a year on to my degree, because the IDS degree tends to typically be a 5-year degree.
Right. Gotcha.
So when I realized that I was already going to have this extra time, I had looked at the art department at Middle Georgia State University, but I did not really consider it to begin with.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When I realized I was going to take this extra time, I was like, you know what? I would like to go and try a formal art class. I had dabbled as an artist throughout my whole childhood and teen years. I always drew. I was a painter. I did a lot of leather work in, the costumery realm, the Renaissance
Right.
Festival realm.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
So, all of that kind of came to a head here when I saw some of the art students at the school, and I was like, I just want to try it out. And this is kind of that sparking point in my life. I signed up for an art history class because I figured I'm already doing all these history things. This is perfect. It will still fit my degree. So I signed up for this art history course, and I went into the very first class on the first Monday, and it was Professor Charles Ward. He was our
I
our
know Charles. Yeah.
yep, I figured that you
Yeah.
did.
Oh yeah.
And,
I've interviewed
and
him, had him on the podcast. Yeah.
good.
Great
I
guy.
love
Great
Charles. I
guy.
love
Oh yeah.
Charles. And so
Oh
he comes in, and I'm sitting there in this full room. I mean, there's 30 students in there. Everybody's, taking this as their, quick 101 elective.
yeah. Right.
And Charles Ward comes in and he goes, art is serious. If you are here to mess around, you can get out. If you are not
There's the
taking this
door.
class,
We'll
there
see you
is the
later.
door. He put the fear of God into this class. And of course, this is my first day in the art program. And I am like, oh
What did I
shit.
get into?
Oh, I mean, really, I'm just like, oh my God, what? So I sit there, I take it all. I'm looking around, all these other students, I figure, know what they're doing, and I have no clue what I'm doing. So make it through the first day. I come back into class 2 days later. More than half of the class is gone.
Really? Wow.
More than half is gone. And Charles comes back in and he goes, welcome to art history.
There you go.
And just shed everything. And I loved that because he made it very clear that art is a serious subject.
Oh, yeah.
You're not coming in here to just do nothing and, fly by the seat of your pants and get an easy A.
Try to get a good rate. You're right. Good grade.
And that's it. That's not how Charles works, and that's not how art works. It is a massive history. There is a ton to learn. There is never enough time to get through it all. And I just so admired that because, he did not do it meanly, but he definitely made it known to those students who thought it was this easy A. This is not. And the students who need to be in this class need to care about the class. And that meant the world to me. Immediately thereafter, I fell in love. I'm a history buff. I fell in love with the art history side. Immediately jumped into more art classes. Got my arts associates through Middle Georgia State University while I was doing my interdisciplinary studies bachelor's, and fell, head over heels for the visual arts itself. And it was kind of history from there.
That's awesome. I had him on the podcast, and I had taken some lessons from, working with Kat and Beth Smith, plug for them.
Right.
And Charles is an instructor and teacher, and Beth, I think, was out of the country at the time. And she said, well, I have a sub for you. And it was Charles. And I think maybe twice I worked with Charles, but I recall one. Yeah, it was because he said, hey, if you're interested and want to learn how the early artists mix their own paint, I can give you a little demo on that, some history behind it. And I said, oh yeah, please share. The next week he's bringing in all this pigment and binder,
all the illuminated manuscript stuff.
Yep. Like, holy cow! I mean, it just like blew me away. But I learned so much, and it was so great to just sit down with him and have him share this information, and I really enjoyed it. And I can just imagine, what would it be like if I was in his class, for a semester or something, and you get more than just the Cliff Notes. And it was less than the Cliff Notes, put it that way, from what he was able to share.
No kidding, right.
So it's like we barely scratched the surface. But yeah, it is just so neat. As you probably know, it's just come across people like that have so much to share. And what a great experience you had with him. And, I admire Charles for, hey, if you're not serious about this, like I said, there's the door.
There's the door.
And the 2 days later, you saw how many, went through the door and didn't come back. So, yeah.
It was really surprising. And again, I thought just a brilliant way to do it. And and that class turned out incredible because everybody left and really cared and really tried.
Yes, most definitely. Well, let's talk a little bit about 567. Okay, and what's going on with that, and how did you did Ocmulgee Artist Guild come first, or is that after 567? So let's go back to that. So let's
Sure.
start with that, and it's kind of looking at the history here. Let's talk a little bit about the Ocmulgee Artist Guild.
That's perfect because that works right back in with Charles Ward.
Okay.
So as we went through college, the art department at Middle Georgia State when I started was in a little bit of a weird crossover, partly because we were going from Macon State College
Oh
to
yeah,
Middle
I
Georgia
remember
State
those days.
University.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Because you were
exactly.
there during,
I
yes,
was
during the
there.
whole transition then.
That's right.
And so it was very interesting to see the art department shift around. We had Charles Ward, we had Shannon Riddle, and we had Craig Burkhalter when I first started. So
Okay. Okay.
three real heavy hitters. Barbara Hutto had just retired a little bit before
Right.
my tenure there,
Okay.
which
Gotcha.
disappointing because I would have loved to have worked under
Yeah.
her as
Yeah.
well. But having those three was an ideal space to come up in this kind of restructured department. And so as we moved through, the printmaking side of things kept growing up there. Ward was very interested in printmaking. Burkhalter, of course, longtime printmaker. So I got to work under both of them while doing this, and then that kind of spilled into the Student Art League, which the school had not had an active Student Art League in years.
Right.
Um, so a lot of the class that kind of came together, a ton of individuals who are now today a part of the Ocmulgee Artist Guild were also there in the Student Art League for the
Okay.
very first year. People like Thomas Held, Deschanere King, who is still around in the Georgia area but no longer here in Macon. Brooke Scott, Jessica Whitley was kind of adjacent to that. So all of these people who were students at the time, we joined the Student Art League with Ward kind of being the presiding, professor over the league itself.
Gotcha.
And in working with the school and doing the Student Art League, um, one day we decided we were going to do an art show. We were going to do it in like 2 weeks. And we asked the school if they would help us with some ice and salsa. And they were like, oh, you have to put in a form, a month out in order to. And we were like, okay.
Oh, really?
And so,
Okay.
oh, and really, we were like, yeah, of course you do. And that's when Ward was like, well, I have a space over at the Arts Exchange building, which was the old artist, hub downtown on Mulberry Street
Okay.
for years and years. Um, Great space, three-story building filled to the brim with artists from Burkhalter to Craig Coleman to Jason Frost
Is
to
that where
Heather Lee.
Michael's on Mulberry used to be on the bottom
That's
floor? Yeah.
correct.
And
Yep,
they were up
absolutely.
above? Yeah.
The
Yeah.
Washington lofts.
Uh-huh.
So Ward was like, so why don't you guys take the show and go do it over there? And he was like, and you could even call yourselves something like the Ocmulgee Artist Guild or something. And we were like,
There you
great,
go.
okay,
Look
that
at my
sounds
name.
great.
Yeah.
And that was
Uh-huh.
it. And that's pretty much how the Ocmulgee Artist Guild
Yeah.
started was
And what
in
year was that? What
that
about what
was
time was that?
that was 2015.
Okay.
We might have done one show as the Student Art League that was guild adjacent in 2014, but we always say 2015 was when the guild truly was
Wow.
established.
So you just
So
had your 10-year anniversary last year. That's
yes,
awesome.
we did. Yep,
Yeah.
yeah, we kind of blew right through it accidentally without even really realizing it. We, because of the Student Art League Guild thing, what we have given ourselves is a truly established date of 2016, but the first
Okay.
Guild show was
Gotcha.
in
Gotcha.
2015. So,
Okay.
hey, it's
We'll
that
have a
fun
great
nebulous list.
celebration this year. It doesn't matter.
It's a
Yeah.
whole year of it,
Yeah. I mean, come on, do it. Yeah. That's awesome.
So that's pretty much it. That's how
Yeah.
that kind of kicked off. Was Ward literally
Wow.
threw out the name. We went, great, we'll be the Ocmulgee Artist Guild. We went over, we did a show. We started with these shows called the $3 Art Show because we were all printmaking students. So we had all of these, misprinted prints that weren't bad, but it wasn't the final print, right?
Right.
So you
Right.
didn't want to throw it away, but you weren't
Yeah.
about to frame it up. So
Right.
we went, all right, this is what we're going to do. We're going to take all of the leftover stuff. We're going to call it the $3 art show. We put everything out on tables and pedestals. Every piece was $3. And that's kind of how we got our start. We had a really successful night where it was just guild and parents of the guild donating some beer and donating a little money. And then we had probably, I don't know, 80, 100 people come through,
Awesome.
including some people who came down from the goat farm because they heard about the show somehow. I
Okay.
was like, I didn't even know what the goat farm was at the time. I was wondering why these farmers were coming in and like raving about our artwork. It wasn't until like the next week I looked it up and I went, "Oh, that goat farm. I get it."
Okay. Okay. Wow.
So, it was kind of a really beautiful way for us to start because especially those who came from the goat farm were like, "This is a great idea. We love what you're doing. We love how you're doing it."
Right.
And yeah, it was pretty much history from there. We made, I think, $340 that night from selling
Really?
$3 artwork. We threw it all back into the guild coffer, and that's how we pretty much grew as a guild. We started with that and
Wow.
continued on.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So that leads into the next is 567 Center, right?
Absolutely. And
So
so,
how did you get tapped out for that? What led up to that opportunity?
you
And how
know,
long have
I,
you been doing that?
I am actually just about at my decade mark. I will hit decade at the
Great.
567. My first show was June of 2016, so I'm about 1 month away.
Congratulations. That's
Thank you very
awesome.
much.
Yeah.
It's
That's
it, I'm
great.
still pinching myself to this day. And to go back to your question, I mean, I was very lucky. I mean, I know, and I've always said I was very lucky.
Yeah.
We were doing the Ocmulgee Artist Guild student art league stuff. I was wrapping up at the school. It's spring 2016 was my final
Mhm.
semester,
Mhm.
and got my degree. I think the following week after graduating, the Macon Arts Alliance, they had a curator position open up. And I was like, well, you know what? I'll apply for that. And then
Yeah.
right at the exact same time, the 567 had their fine art director position open up.
Oh, okay.
And people were encouraging me to apply for that. And I was like, I'm fresh out of school. I don't know if I can do that. And my now wife, Jessica Whitley, who was my
Yeah.
girlfriend at the time, she was like, do it. Like, just apply. Worst comes
Go
to
for it,
worst,
man.
nothing
Yeah.
happens,
What do you
right?
got to lose? Yeah. Do it.
And I'm 2 weeks out from graduating, so I'm like, right, what
Yeah.
do I have to lose? I have
Yeah.
no clue what I'm doing otherwise.
You'll figure it out.
And so I applied to both and got an interview at the 567 about 3 weeks later and started pretty much about a month after graduating. Like I said, my
And
first show there was June 2016. Of course, I had the privilege of taking over for Beth Smith, who was the previous fine art director there. And
gotcha.
so she taught me, fast, down and dirty. This is how we
Uh-huh.
do our classes. This is how I do the gallery. I learned everything I could from her in her way out as she went on to kind of start up
Right.
her
Get,
own,
get
CAD
that
and
going.
everything
Uh-huh.
else. And really, it was kind of all history from there. I fell right into the position. I interviewed well. Beth and Melissa and I all got along, and yeah, the rest is history.
You took the words out of my mouth. I was just thinking the same thing. You know, the rest is history, and here it is, 10 years. But how long has 567 been around?
So 567 started in 2009.
Okay,
And it
okay,
started at where the name comes from is our very, very first location was 567 Cherry Street, which is where I think Fresh Produce is now. So,
okay.
yeah.
Wow, wow. So how does all this tie into this Triangle Arts deal?
So I was obviously working with the 567 for quite a while. We started up a pottery studio together, Melissa and I, with a grant. That was very interesting, learning an entire new medium and entire new space.
So you've
I
never
mean,
done you never had
I
done
was
any
never a
pottery or
potter.
anything, right? Okay, wow,
Minimal,
yeah,
minimal. I mean,
yeah,
like I had the at-home wheel when I was a kid that my
uh-huh,
mom, my
yeah,
mom was a
yeah.
potter when she was younger.
Okay,
But never any formal training, didn't do any of it in college. We got a grant for $20,000, and Melissa and I both almost foolishly were like, well, we've got this money. What could we do with the building? And that would be easy. We thought a pottery studio would be easy. Little did we know that it was an
uh-huh.
entire other business we were taking on.
Oh wow, wow,
But
yeah.
so funny enough, where all of this links together is I started for the 567. We had a basement there. And because the 567 and New City Church had been sharing a space on Cherry Street, it was the second space that the 567 was at, which is now where the Creek radio station is, or
Oh, okay.
what was before their
Was
move.
okay.
So we
Right.
used to be upstairs there. That was the 567. And that was there for about, I guess, 5 years before we moved over to our building currently.
Hmm.
So in moving to this building, it was fresh. So I really got to help break the building in, which also meant I got to break the basement in. The
Right.
Ocmulgee Artist Guild needed a place to do shows. So I said to Melissa, hey, if I clean up this basement, can we run a show down here? Which
Right.
is
Right.
exactly what we
Yeah.
did. And so our first dysphoria exhibit was in the basement there. It was a great vibe, great atmosphere. But then we cleaned it up so well that by the time Melissa and I got the grant, we were like, "Well, what are we going to do with this?" And Melissa's like, "Well, we have a whole basement." And I was like, "Yeah, we do, don't we?"
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And yeah, so ended up kind of transitioning that over into the pottery studio. Big learning curve. So by the time all of that was said and done, Rick Geyer had come into town and he had bought up this random old industrial space building down on
Right.
Lower Elm
Right.
Street. And
Right.
I just happened to come across the Instagram for it, and it was Triangle Arts Macon. And I was like, what the hell's Triangle Arts Macon? Never heard
Right.
of this. So looked at the photos, ran down there that afternoon. The gate's closed, but I'm looking through the gate and
Right.
I'm like,
Right.
wow,
Right.
look at all this space. And yeah, pretty much Willie Dantzler was working with Rick when they first kind of kicked it off. But I was there for like the very first graffiti ball that they put together. I helped hand out spray paint and orchestrate all of the sprayers and met all of Rick's contacts from the Atlanta 4731 space, including really big players like Vane, who is a massive street artist up in Atlanta, or Nels, who sadly has passed since, but
Mm.
incredibly gifted artist, incredibly gifted orchestrator of artists, somebody I
Right.
really
Right.
looked up to in my brief time getting to know him, and just awesome talent with a spray can and brick walls. So fell in love with it. That was always more, being the events person that I was with theater, being the artist that I became in college. Triangle was this perfect melding of event space with art. Um, having been at the 567 at that point for, I think I was there for 5 or 6 years already. I had done all these classes, I had done all these other events, we had built this pottery studio. So it felt like the next kind of natural step.
Right. Right.
And of course, it was, Triangle has, of course, shifted and changed in its, iterations over the years. Rick is only owning the studios now, and Jimmy Fritz has opened up a vintage car restoration spot out there now.
Right.
So
Right.
still being used in an artistic way, but,
Yeah.
just a different artistic way now. But
Hmm.
we did a ton of fun things. We had I ended up hosting a couple of 420 festivals for Macon. So we actually did the first Macon 420 festival out there at Triangle. Massive success on a Wednesday afternoon. I pulled in probably 350 people. We
That's
had
amazing. Yeah.
numerous local
That's
businesses that
amazing.
sold out their
Right.
tables. I mean, it was a really good day. We've rented the space out to all of these outside hip hop artists and food vendors, and just really, it was such a fun, immersive
Right.
space and
Right.
experience. That's where I got to meet artists like Kevin Lewis. I got to
Yeah.
know Desto Moore better out
Oh
there.
yeah. Yeah.
He came to photograph me for a walk in our shoes exhibit that he had at the Macon Arts Alliance. I was honored to kind of fall into the fold of a lot of these artists that you didn't have coming into the galleries.
Right.
These
Right.
were street artists and underground artists, and that
Right.
really opened my eyes to more of what Macon could be, what potential we had brewing here, what creativity we have constantly working here, and how I realized there were so many segments of Macon and sometimes not a lot of crossover because there wasn't a space for that crossover to
Right.
occur.
Right. Right.
And so that meant a lot to me personally for Macon and seemed to matter a lot to the community for the time that we were doing it, for just re-engaging in a new and different way with everybody.
Right. Right. Um, I like the idea of bringing all these talented, wonderful people together from these various genres, I guess you'd call it, of art or different, mediums and things of that,
Right.
pottery, things of that nature, the abstract to the multi or mixed media, etc. And it's amazing to hear about so many wonderful, talented people that are right here in the Middle Georgia area. And of course, that's one of the reasons why I do what I do, and doing the podcast to help those that are in the area know about these wonderful, wonderful people. Do you envision, real quick here, do you envision something like that happening in the future of it's almost like making arts day or making arts weekend? It's not just a certain, you know, um, I want to say, medium like, okay, we're just doing oil or acrylic painters or anything like that. It's not just, painters per se, but it's all creatives coming together to experience the art of and that culture of art in the Middle Georgia area. Do you think something like that is? Do you think something like that could happen in the future? And do you know of something like that possibly happening in the future? Because I think it would be wonderful. I'd love to, come down and witness that and just see and meet and talk with different people because of different backgrounds and different mediums and things like that. Because you're right, you learn so much. I learn so much every time I talk to somebody, and I benefit the most from all that what I do. And maybe I'm being selfish, but I do. I mean, but I get to know so many wonderful people, and I hear this a lot, Colin. That community and bringing people together. And I didn't know about this person. I would love to meet them. And is there a way that we can? And I mean, and when you and I talked, I might have mentioned this to you. I can't remember if you did or not, but I'd love to have maybe later this fall of getting all the people that I've interviewed over the last almost 2 years. Let's come together and socialize and meet each other and just kind of hang out, have some food and whatever, and learn from each other, meet each other, and connect with each other, and maybe collaborate with each other on certain projects. I'm gonna shut up, let you talk now. So, but
No, no, it's brilliant. I think you're it. It's multifold. I think, yes, absolutely. That is something that can and will happen. I think Macon has experienced such a resurgence in public art, community understanding of art. Maybe social media has changed how humanity uh, works with art, sees art. I mean, it's just so much has changed so rapidly that it's
right,
like it's such a multifaceted not issue but possibility.
right,
I
right.
think one of the things that Macon prides itself on is that it is a festival capital of the United States, right? We
Right,
love to
right.
say that we have more festivals than most other spaces do.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
really, when you look at every weekend for the 52 weeks of the year, there is a festival happening. I mean,
Something's going on somewhere. Yeah.
pretty much, we
Yeah.
have a ton of stuff. So I think what we're seeing is these pockets of creatives are popping up, right? Like you've got the 478 creatives, you've got
hmm
things like the Art and Blues Festival that Johnny Malika is putting on. You've
hmm
got things like the Guild, you've got um, things like Court of Miracles. You've got lesser known organizations like the Mockingbird Group. All of these individuals are programming stuff, are working with artists. There are so many artists in town. It's so funny because I mean, it's Macon, and I know we all say, for how large Macon is, Macon can be very small, right? It
Right, right.
feels like a lot of the people in these circles, but that was one of the big things Triangle really showed me was there's so many more people out here looking for opportunity that you just would never have really passed by in the street. You needed
Right.
a specific area to come together for that reason. And so that's where I do think as all of these individual pockets are emerging and their bubbles are growing, those bubbles are starting to overlap with each other. And I think once we've kind of got a multitude of these overlaps, Well, now we've got a thread into each of these groups, and this is very
Hmm.
much my interdisciplinary study brain right there. But finding
Okay.
that common thread and saying, okay, I know you here and I know you there, but you two do not know each other, right?
Right. Right.
So let's make that connection
Right.
happen.
That's
I've seen a
exactly.
lot of that over the last, decade in particular, even down to Sierra, the previous curator for the Macon Arts Alliance.
Right.
She, right before she left, she put together a meeting of all of the Macon curators at all of the galleries. And
Great.
that was something that had just never been done before, not in
Right.
our 10-year time. It might have been done in the 80s, 90s, but there I am sitting in the room with Jeff Bruce from the Tubman Museum and, with Rick and with Aaron Hawkins and all of
Right.
these people doing and leading all of these other things. And it opened up all of our eyes to, right, we're all in this boat together. A high tide raises all ships.
Right. Right.
And the more that we can work, collaborate together, the better it is for all of the artist community at the end of the day.
Exactly.
And the
Exactly.
better it is for us because we know, okay, you're pulling in this amazing show for August. So let me try to not compete against that. Let me find a counterpoint to that where it will enhance it
Very
instead of,
important. Very important.
right?
Yes.
And even down
Very
to
important.
tools and resources, I mean, Sierra's like, right, we have a laser level here. If you need a laser level, well, sure enough, Jenny Lane Sheridan a week later was like, hey, I really need a laser level. I need to curate
Yeah.
this very intimate show and I need to get these lines right.
Right.
Had we not had that meeting, Jenny Lane might not have just thought about contacting the Macon Arts Alliance.
Right.
It's
Right.
little things like that that end up making a giant impact down the line because it just
Right.
opens that line of communication, shows us the people that we've been missing, and helps pull them into the fold. So I think as we're moving down the line, and honestly, I mean, I thought about it the other day when we were talking outside of this,
Uh-huh.
and I think it would be so cool to, if not take an existing thing like the Macon Mural Festival and adding in more artists, to make a day where it's even like it's Art City Tour Day. Nobody
Right.
has to necessarily get together, but we just make a map of every single arts organization, business. You want to open your home studio, fine, and just do a
That's
travel
an
around the
excellent
city day.
idea. I mean, that's an excellent idea because I think it would be very successful because like you said, even if you did it maybe twice a year, I mean, it's a certain
Mm-hmm.
Saturday or Sunday afternoon or something like that. People can, that helps that individual studio, gallery, or whatever downtown. Like what Aaron has going on down there, and Jeannie Lane, Sheridan Studios, and all that kind of stuff. You guys, Making Arts Alliance, all this kind of stuff, and people learn more about them, and they know that
Right.
hey, I can do not just a first Friday night, the month. You kind of do that, but this is a special event, and then there's other artists that, hey, I'll open up my house or studio if somebody wants to come and talk and network, and other artists want to. Cause see, the thing I learn and hear from a lot of artists is I just enjoy visiting other artists' studios and learning from them
Yes.
and seeing how they do things and what they have set up. And because different little groups that I've been in, that's one of the things we love to do. Is like, okay, I'll host the next meeting and you can come to my place and you can see my stuff. And it helps build that arts community. And I won't just say artists, but I look at all the arts community. So hopefully,
Right.
yeah, and I think you could probably make that happen. You know,
I think it's a great idea. And then, I mean, even the other idea you're giving me is just, one of the things the Guild did, especially prior to the pandemic, and it's been a little bit less since then, when we were really in the midst of the big triangle push and everything, was
uh
just
huh,
doing like a Friendsgiving. We did a bunch of Friendsgivings out there
right,
where we
right.
didn't do art at all. We just all brought a dish and ate food together and,
I
shot the
love
breeze,
that.
and that was it.
Yeah,
And
I
and
love that.
I think that is sometimes way more crucial than having a event or having a end all be all goal with the art. I mean, sometimes it is just the art is the community. I mean, that is what we're trying to make.
I love this because you're both of us are brainstorming. Things are popping into your head, and as I mentioned about building community, I I think you hit right on it. And just throwing this out, you kind of have to start with that first. that Friendsgiving or whatever. Hey, we're getting together. We're just having a social event. Please come. Bring another artist friend. Come on down.
Right.
Low pressure. Let's meet, greet, all that kind of stuff. Maybe somebody says, for 5 minutes, hey, thank you for coming. The purpose of this is whatever. We hope things will develop from it. Maybe some collaborations and et cetera, et cetera. And it's good to do that at least once a year. It'd be nice if you could do it twice a year, but at least once a year because people come and go and move
Right.
in, move out, and so you've got new artists and everything.
And
And I think,
that's
yeah,
exactly the other thing is you don't know who has popped in over the last 5 years if you
right,
haven't had them in a room and gotten to shake their hand. It's so easy to
exactly,
miss somebody. Yeah.
right,
And even like you said, it's hard on the first Friday nights because it's such a you're going from this gallery to this gallery and
right,
you see 200 people, you forget half of that. It's like it's too much.
exactly, exactly,
Whereas, right, getting together with nothing really to do but to get together,
right,
chat, get to
right,
know each other, and then move on with your
yeah.
day. I mean, I think it's definitely the right
I,
direction to
I,
go.
I think so too, and it helps. Like we said, new artists that come in is because some of the artists I've talked about, is having that community, and they've shared with me a little bit about how they've lived in other states and been associated with different groups and things that they would get together and talk about. Because there's a lot of little groups that could form as a result because you have common interest. And yeah, I'm
Right.
an oil painter, or I like landscapes, or hey, let's start a plein air group, and go
Literally exactly
out
my
and
thought. Yep.
yeah, and go out and hey, let's do it. And if it lasts 6 months, hey, that's great. It's not something
It
that
was
has to
six
be
more months than they had prior. Yeah, absolutely.
exactly,
Yep.
and it's
Yep.
not something like, okay, we started a plein air group, we went out 3 or 4 times, and people lost interest or whatever. That's okay, but at least
It's
you're
fine.
getting out. And I think
And I
too is
think
just
that's
no, I was just
I
going to
just
say, just letting people know because as new people move in, they find out, oh, this is coming up. I'm going to go so I can meet some other people. But anyway, I'm sorry.
no, and I think that's such a great point too. And even just I think in capitalism, right? It's always designed for forever, right? This
Yeah,
business is
yeah,
supposed to last forever. You have to grow exponentially forever.
right.
But I totally agree. If a plein air group pops up for 5 months and they knocked out 4 paintings each and then it disbands, well, that was
That's
totally worth the time and the effort
far
and
more
the
than you
energy.
would have created, right?
Darn right,
And you
exactly. And
met
you
some nice people in the process. That's the whole point,
I couldn't agree more. It's definitely, and that's the crucial nature, I think, for
Yeah,
artists too, because also, we all change through life. Our thought processes change, our priorities change. I mean,
exactly.
with my guild in particular, it's like divorces, marriages, children, life, death. I mean, it's
Yes,
all
yes,
hit us now that we've hit our
right.
30s. And
That's
so it's
right.
very interesting seeing the difference too of what the mindset was coming out of art school versus a decade into our community where we are the community too. I mean, we're
Right,
all
right,
individuals living here as well. And,
right.
right, somebody's going to have a child and that's going to change their relationship to us, to the community. And right, if they were only there for a year, but they got a year's worth out of it, great. And if they want to continue their tenure, even better, right? It means that we're doing something right enough that even in these life changes, people will go, this is worthwhile to me and
Yeah,
to
yeah,
my future endeavors and my life
yeah.
goals. So,
Right, right. That's perfect. I like that because there's a time and a season for everything, and so it's like, hey, this is my time or this is my season, and yeah, it might have lasted a season, it might have been 2 seasons, 6 months or whatever. It was in the fall or whatever, and that's just the beauty of it all. And I love that you guys as curators and directors are coming together to communicate with one another what's going on in the Macon art scene so that you hit on it a minute ago about I don't want to have a big event if you're going to have one the very next day or the day of, so
right.
okay, well, we can shift ours or they could shift theirs or whatever. Or what if we collaborated on something? You know what I'm
Which is
saying?
the
And
best, right?
and you create
Yes.
that synergy and energy that's there that you wouldn't have had maybe doing it by yourself. So
And you're
yeah,
taking the crowd that was going to go there and the crowd that was going to go there, and now you're giving it this bubble to
exactly.
overlap, which is
Yeah,
what the
yeah,
community needs as well, right? Because I think
right.
that's part of it too, is in all of the hubbub of Macon, it's very easy to go, okay, my blinders are on this event, and you miss that there were three other things going on within a few blocks of that event, right after that event.
Right.
So
Right.
having that ability to say, right, you're here at this from 3 to 5, but at 4 to 6, there's a Macon magazine release party that
That's
you're
right.
welcome to come to,
That's
and then this
that's right.
gallery, and
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
right, pulling all of that together only benefits
Yeah.
everybody.
Well, let's talk a little bit about this shape and space art management that you've started. Talk to us about
Yes.
that. What's that all about?
So after wrapping up with Triangle, I went because I never stopped working for the 567 while I was at Triangle. I let
Okay.
go of the fine art
Right.
director position and I became their curator for the gallery.
Okay.
And so after a couple of years at Triangle, when kind of the vision shifted over a little bit more to just being a studio space, less of an event space, I wanted to still have the ability to do events and I wanted the ability to still manage artists. And that has honestly been one of the hardest things that I have had to deal with is figuring out how to manage artists in the day of constant communication, instant communication. Everybody has an Instagram. Every artist can be their own manager.
Right.
And
Right.
so I worked with Kevin Lewis a little bit. He was
Okay.
kind of my
Yeah.
first guinea pig,
All right.
and we had some really fun things. But like I took him, Kevin and I traveled out to L.A. for a event together that I had him
Awesome.
doing a live painting thing for, and it was for men's mental health awareness, pretty much.
Wow.
So really cool experience, a great foray into trying this out and realizing how challenging, this is. It's hard to
Yeah.
find the money as the middleman between artists, which are already struggling on the financial side of things, right?
Keep
And
keep talking because I'm taking a note. I had a brainstorm about something, but I'll share it with you
oh,
later. But
good,
I'm
get it
just writing
down.
down a note.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I got. If I don't write it down, I'll forget it. So okay.
And then you'll
Yeah.
be kicking yourself later, rewatching this
Yes.
podcast, going,
Yeah.
right there, I had that idea.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, so that was kind of where the shape and space idea came out of, was leaving Triangle, wanting to still work with these artists, wanting to still run
Right.
events, and just needing kind of a central hub to do this. Right now, shape and space is also kind of the top business for the guild until we've got, because the guild has run as a club for all of these years, so we're getting our ducks in a row, but shape and space has helped take on the financial burden side of that.
Okay.
And then of course too, what I do with this business is I contract myself out. So I was very lucky. Rick actually helped put in a good word for me as I was forming this to the Macon Arts Alliance, which is
Okay.
how I ended up on as the lead for the Macon Mural Festival.
Oh.
And
Okay.
that has been such a big boon for me
Yeah.
and one of the biggest love projects I've ever had in my life. I fell in love with street art out at Triangle in particular. I'd always had a love for it, but I really came to respect it. And getting to work for the Macon Arts Alliance with this festival has been so rewarding. Everybody, if they've been downtown, has seen at least one of the murals that we've had brought in from that festival, from the fall line Triceratops dinosaurs that they have on their warehouse building, to Oliver's lovely Lady and Bird piece,
Oh
to
yeah.
the new
Yeah.
Welcome to Macon piece, book ending Second Street from Petals on one end to where the new Second Street Bridge is on the other. It's been so rewarding getting to both work with the Macon Arts Alliance on an event like this, building up Macon with a more national presence because we have had such crazy amounts of submissions for this festival. I mean, we had response like we never expected. Our first year, we had 26 applicants.
Wow.
Last year, we had 89. So
Wow.
for
That's
three,
amazing.
4, 5 walls, So
Yeah.
we're able to pick the literal cream of the crop, and
Exactly. Exactly.
I love that because I love pulling in outside entities to Macon just as much as I love pushing Macon entities outside of Macon, right? Like that's our next big goal and big push is Macon these bubbles in Macon are starting to overlap. Like I was talking about earlier, we are all starting to get to know each other.
Right.
We're all
Right.
selling to the same clients. We need to push our artists further afield, and we need other artists to come in.
Right.
We were working through the 567 with the Mendez brothers for the Macon Sculpture Walk. And the very first year we did the Macon Sculpture Walk, the Mendez brothers were in from Indiana. I can't remember exactly where in Indiana, but it was a very small town. I think they said they had a population of 12,000 people in that town.
Wow.
Small.
Yeah.
They have a flourishing art scene there. And part of why it is what they explained was that they don't show any of the local artists that are in that town. All the local artists do like the Mendez brothers did, and they apply to places like Georgia.
Oh,
And
okay.
so then they only pull in outside artists into the town, which means there's a little bit less of that kind of incestuous market, right? You know, where it's just the same people over and over again. They're pulling in these outside people and, you know, saying, okay, hey, look, locals, like this is an artist from Washington State that you have
Right.
never seen and you're never going to see again. So if you
Right.
like their pottery, you best get it today
That's
because
right. That's
you're
right.
not going to walk into this artist studio in 3 weeks and get the better price. It will be
Right.
gone. It will be done.
It's
That
yeah.
always stuck with me. I was like, that makes a ton of sense for a smaller town.
Mm-hmm.
If you're
Mm-hmm.
Atlanta or you're, you know, Asheville or you're Memphis or you're Austin or you're LA or you're Detroit or wherever, you have a large enough populace
You
and
do.
you have
Yeah.
enough in and out of tourists and other people.
Right.
You don't have to worry about that in the same way, right? You know,
Right. Right.
but for Macon, I think that's something that we really need to ruminate on and contemplate and figure out, you know, where are our markets and who is
Mm-hmm.
our market, you know,
Right. Right.
because Kevin Lewis has great work, you know, but it's
Yeah.
expensive work and it should
Right.
be. He puts in
Right.
hours and hours and hours in
Exactly.
oil, like on
Right.
large canvas. That
Yeah.
needs and deserves to go somewhere
Right.
that is going to blow people's minds. And we are the lucky beneficiaries because his studio is here and we can check it out anytime.
That's right. That's right.
You know, so it's that kind of mindset, I think, to kind of pushing down the line that is going to help. And that's where, with the Macon Mural Festival, I just love that we're able to pull in some of these artists who would never, ever come to Macon otherwise. And
Yeah.
when we get them to Macon, they step into this town and they look around and they see what we've done over the last decade plus, and they're impressed. And
Yeah.
they leave
Yeah.
with really good words on their lips about Macon.
It's good. Yeah.
At the end
Yeah.
of the day, I'm like, what better, right? And again, that's
Right.
that cultivating
Right.
community outside of our community where we have people in Denver, we have people in LA speaking highly about their time and experience and community and culture here in
Right.
Macon.
That's
And
the best
that
PR. Yeah, it's the best PR you can get, you know, is when you bring
means the
people in
world.
like
Yep.
that. Yeah. And they put that on their, you know, resume or whatever, or their bio and said, hey, I've gone here and participated in this. And, you know, I from California and I went to Macon, Georgia, and this is the event that was there. The next thing you know, Macon, Georgia. And then people, oh, I might want to look that up. And then the next thing you know, you get some people following and people are coming and that kind of thing. And I love that, you know, bringing that in. And, you know, it's, I was just thinking about just the music scene that was in Macon and still in Macon, Georgia,
Oh
the
yeah.
music scene and the history here and the different artists that have, you know, performed here and lived here and etc. But yet, you know, back in the 60s and 70s, you had a lot of the Southern rock and roll and you had the Ulmer brothers and, you know, Marshall Tucker came into town and recorded and Wet Willie and, you know, of course, you
Oh
had
yeah.
Otis Redding and all this kind of stuff. And there's a lot of roots there and I think there's this resurgence or this creativity mushrooming here of art culture, you know, and so in a
Yes.
way it's like it's rebirthing of a southern cultural art center hub, you know, in the Macon
Because
Middle
right.
Georgia area,
And it's like you said, we have been in the past, and I think we absolutely are again, and will continue to be even greater. So if
right,
we can continue to push
right.
together as this arts community,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
right, just keep building stuff up. I mean, at the
yeah,
end of the
yeah,
day, if you
yeah.
build something good, they will come. It might take a year because Macon is a
That's
little
right.
sometimes
That's
slow on that end, but that's
that's
fine. If it
true.
takes a
That's
year or
true.
two, as long as it all works
Be
out at the
patient.
end,
Be patient. Yeah.
patience is
So
a virtue, right?
where do you see things in the next 10 years? So you got some history there, 567 Triangle. You've got this new business going on, especially with artists, the Ocmulgee Artist Guild. What's happening with you guys over the next 10 years? What's on the horizon? What projects?
You know, it's such a lofty question. I think it kind of falls back into what we were talking about with all of this is after a decade of doing art shows, what else can we do to push the envelope, right? What else
Right,
can we do to
right,
make something new? Um, the guild in particular has had almost a weird setback because we started in the 567's basement. We then moved over to a building on Second Street. That was a three-story, I mean, it was 6,000 square feet per
wow,
floor.
yeah,
I mean, so we
wow,
had space. We had space to play and do. That building has since gone up for sale, and so we're no longer in it. So we're at the old Greenlight Gallery on First
right,
Street.
right,
So went from about 18,000 square feet to 1,500 square feet.
yeah, yeah,
So, part of it is just trying to figure out, right, what can we do with what we have, of course,
right,
and that's where currently the guild is just running good art shows where, focusing on doing some smaller, more affordable work so that we
right,
can sell
right,
to this community, so that we're
right,
not outpricing the people who are coming out to support us,
right.
focusing on making prints. I think a lot of the younger generation doesn't have a giant disposable income to spend
That's
on
true.
massive oil paintings,
That's
but
true.
they want to have an art collection. It's not that they don't appreciate art, it's they can't afford
That's right.
the end all be all piece. So
Right.
selling a $50 signed print that is a limited series, nice giclée print, great, there you go. Put it in a $5 frame from Amazon, hang it on
There
your
you
wall.
go.
There's
That's
there's
right.
the start of
That's
your art
right.
collection.
That's right.
And that's important too, right? Somebody who has never collected art, even buying that first print, that might be the bug that bites them. And then 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line, when they are in a position where they've got, financial dependence and the ability to look beyond the day-to-day necessities, right? Then art can continue. And that's what we need to cultivate too, is the next generation of art buyers and art cultivators and the patron of the art, because the artists are important. The patron is just as, if not maybe almost more important, because without the patron the
Right.
artist can't sustain themselves as the artist.
That's
So,
right. Yeah.
and that kind of goes full circle back to my parents, where my father was always more in the arts, my mom was always an artist herself, but a patron of the arts, and you realize
Hmm.
how crucial those two go together.
Right.
um,
Right.
so I think hopefully moving down the line, one of the things that I've said this before, but we always need more money to come in. We need more grant
Right.
funding. We need
Right.
more money dedicated to artistic projects and ideas. I think I was hinting to you the other day that I personally have been devising. I've been devising two large things. I've been devising one large event. That would hopefully take place on the Ocmulgee River. It's not really an art event, but it is a cultural fun time event.
Okay.
Um, and then another devised project that the more, when I first started thinking about it, I was like, oh, you just need some canvas and some artists. But then I was like, well, then you need the space. Oh, and then you need the lighting. Oh, and then you need the bar. And then you need the
Right. Right.
precursor to the thing. And then the sales. So you need all these, so you with art too, I think so many people just think, oh, it's art, like it's cheap and easy. And you take a
Right.
paintbrush and a $5 thing of paint. And it's like, you can, but rarely are the
Right.
things these
Right.
days that you want to see going to, this is going to be a $10,000 project.
Right.
It's not
Right.
undoable, but it just changes the nature of the game. We can do bigger and better if we have more support to allow us to do bigger and better.
Right.
But
Right.
it's always going to be very challenging for the artist to not just devise the concept, but to wrangle all of the support and to produce the thing, right? It's really three separate roles. Many artists can do that, and many do that and successfully well. But I do see if there was more ability to have funding coming in and being released to artists, kind of similar to the Blues and Art Festival that Johnny Malik is
Right,
doing, right?
right,
He
right.
got some grant money to do that. It allowed him to bring in the bands he needed to do it. And with those bands, everything else kind of fell into place, right? So
Gotcha.
I think if we continue to move in that direction, a lot of these individual pockets will all be able to build up their events bigger. And the bigger that we keep building these events, that's eventually going to spill over, and we
Right, right.
will find larger scale things to do collaboratively and individually.
Awesome, awesome. Looking forward to what's going to happen in the future in the Middle Georgia art scene. So yeah,
Me
that's
too.
fabulous. Let's talk a little bit about you as an artist. And you shared with me some of your artwork, and I want to pull this up here on the stage and have you talk a little bit about your art. And these are in no particular order, but just share with us, what this piece is, why you created it, is there a story behind it, etc. So,
Absolutely. Yeah. And you know me, I've got a story behind everything. So
all right, fire away,
um,
man.
I love this shot. I mean, partly just because I look so goofy in it. But so with my shape and space business, one of the other things I do is I have a what I call a graffiti wall rental, but it's really just a mural wall rental.
Okay,
So what you see in the background here is actually a section of these wall rentals that I do. They're modular and reconfigurable, where each panel is a 4 foot by 4 foot panel, and I've got a multitude of legs so that you can do individual panels, you can do a full wall. So I work with a lot of things like the Magnolia Soapbox Derby, with Macon Pride. I helped do like the Otis Redding Center for the Arts opening with these walls. And so this picture in particular is us working last year with DeMarcus Beckham and the Macon Pride board over at the Tubman Museum.
okay,
And what DeMarcus wanted was a community project, right? Something that was meaningful and that had more depth than just the standard play wall. Because when I do my wall rentals, it's pretty much like, here's a blank canvas, here's the paints and the brushes, you have fun, let the kids and
right,
the adults go
right,
at it. This
right.
was a more pointed experience. So you can see we've got the pride flag mixing with the American flag in the back, and heart hugging itself, right? So
Yes,
this was a
yes,
truly like love mural, and talking about the fact that all of us here in the States are, all American citizens, and we are all, if you are LGBTQ, you are as much a part of this culture as anybody else in this culture,
that's right,
and you
that's right,
should love yourself, and we all love you. And
right.
I am part of the LGBTQ community, so I love working in this capacity where I can pull in the arts in with somebody like especially DeMarcus and Scott. I mean, Charlotte, that whole board is very art focused, which I truly
Awesome.
appreciate. This was right before the event started, of course, so there was no color on this wall. But I
Right.
should have sent you the after shot because, of course, this thing got all filled in, colored in. We had probably 100 people touch their hand on it over the course of the evening that night. So just a really great example of where my love lies in this community building through art with a purpose.
I love that. That is awesome. Yeah, I'd love to see the finished product, see what was created from that. Yeah, that's great.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. So this is some of my aerosol work. So this is
Okay.
kind of showing you a little bit of kind of what I learned in our printmaking courses in college.
Okay.
This is a lot of stencil cutouts and a lot of aerosol play, and kind of not only just my college experience, but that street art experience. This is where my aerosol spray painting has kind of come out. I like doing these more composed pieces. I really enjoy hitting the walls, like the 567 Center and I. We helped bring in with alongside Mark Thompson, who funded the project, all of the downtown graffiti walls in the alleyways. We helped get that established so that people had a place to try their hand at spray paint, because that was one of the things I realized is nobody ever gets a legal area right to really
Right, right.
try that out. And instead, you get a lot of kids throwing really nasty, quick, poorly done slop on building fronts. Uh, and so that was
Or
partly what
train
happened
cars,
back.
you know,
Or and you know,
going
and
down the track. Yeah.
between you and me, I love the train cars. But you know what I love the most about the train cars is when you see a really impressive piece on it,
Oh, I
right?
know.
Something
Such
that,
talent, that you
oh,
feel like in a
it's
way it's wasted. And it's just like, I love seeing it go by, it's just amazing the talent
what
that's there.
what what I love again about the street art crowd is their undergroundness. And what I really learned and came to admire was the fact that they see it almost in the exact opposite way. They see the train car as a mobile national gallery, right? So they
Right,
love it because
right.
they can do a piece in Macon and it will be viewed by
Go
somebody who
all
might
over the
know them
country
in
somewhere.
LA. You
Yes.
got it.
Yeah.
And I love that. And so not encouraging vandalism at all or anything
Right,
like that,
right,
because
right.
obviously that's not my goal here. But I do think there's such a giant difference between, you know, a random doodle where you're trying to learn versus a finished, completed, technically correct piece, right?
Right, right.
And I think that the community kind of sees it that way too. I don't think anybody looks at Randy Hart's clouds, right? And sees them as graffiti. They see them as art. It doesn't
Right,
matter where it
right.
pops up. It becomes this mainstay of Macon. Like, oh, there's one of, Randy's clouds. Oh, there's another Randy cloud. It's bringing love. It's bringing support. That's what we want. We don't want the 14-year-old with a rattle can who stole it from his dad's shed to
Yeah.
go. And so that's what the graffiti walls downtown were for. Is it's like, come
Perfect, man. That's
here and
perfect. Yeah.
try it and hone yourself. And then when you get really good, then you can go get hired for mural projects.
That's right.
You don't
That's right.
have to even go the illegal route anymore. You can take these skills and go be a real full-time artist, and I think we've all watched Kevin Lewis in particular, who has
Yeah.
got
I
a
was
ton
thinking
of
about
murals around
Kevin.
town.
Yeah.
And his murals are incredible, but
They
and
are.
and he started young and he was not always a great spray painter, right? Like he had to learn, he had to come up and figure
We
out
all
how to use
do,
these
or
rattle.
all have, we have to
It's
start
the
somewhere. And
nature.
I love this idea and this concept, of giving a place for people like that to come, young kids or whatever, and experiment with it and do it in a, like you said, a legal environment, a safe
eh,
environment, and express
you know,
themselves.
and
It's
that's it,
awesome.
right?
Yeah.
And I mean, we had when we first were putting the project together, there were a lot of downtown business owners that were a bit concerned about the walls because they thought it was going to encourage graffiti down the whole alley and on their businesses.
Right.
And I was like, let's try it out. I think we are getting graffiti everywhere because there is no designated spot to do it. If we give them
That's
a
right. That's
designated
right.
spot and a
Yeah.
legal spot, then they can be
Right.
out here at 3 in the morning. And when the cop rolls down the alley, they don't have to run away from their half finished piece. They can just let them drive by and keep spraying. It is
Hey, I was
for
invited to
them.
be here, and here's my credentials, and I just happened to be
Darn
in at 3
right.
o'clock in the morning. Yeah,
Because
couldn't
it's
get
a
around.
24/7 wall. Yep, I can
That's
do it
right.
3 in the morning, 3 in the afternoon. I'll
Love
never
it.
forget, right when we had first put them up, we had an artist who came running into the 567 and he's like, well, the cop is like following me. And I was just like, are you spraying on our walls? Because there's a plaque right there. Just tell the cop to call
Yeah,
the number and we'll say you're good
yeah,
to go. And,
yeah, yeah.
never, ever, ever had an issue. I think the city immediately realized. And of course, right after they went up, all of this spray paint went to these walls. A lot of it stopped in the alleys. I mean, there's
Yeah,
still
yeah.
bits and spurts here and there, but it is
Good,
nothing
good.
like it
Yeah,
used to be. And people use these walls for photo spots, for video
that's right.
spots.
That's right.
They've become something that has enhanced the alley instead of being a dirty alley filled with random graffiti
Right,
all over it.
right,
It's become a
right.
destination spot. So
Yeah.
so all that to say is, going back to my artwork here, that was kind of where all of my spray paint and aerosol love kind of came together. And these are a couple of examples of where I take my own aerosol work. So these
Okay,
are stenciled bird pieces and yeah, with massive played backgrounds with lots of different colors and patterned textures within.
okay. Now, these pieces for sale that you created here?
Yes, although I
Okay.
think I have sold all of those except for maybe one.
Oh, okay. Okay. All
Yep,
right.
yep.
Okay.
So I
No
had
problem.
put many of those into guild shows. I do think I've got one
Okay.
of the green birds left.
Okay. All right. No problem. All right. And this is the last one that we have. And I was really impressed with the artistic styles here. And talk to us a little bit about these. And is it charcoal, pencil, ink? What's the medium?
This, yep. So this is charcoal. Yep,
Hmm.
charcoal. In art school fell in love with reductive charcoal. So reductive charcoal being where you pretty much black out the whole page, and then instead of drawing in with the charcoal, you're drawing in with your eraser. So you're
Gotcha.
cutting the light back
Taking
in.
out the dark to bring out the light. Yeah.
And what I love is I have a very hard time personally in taking my values all the way down. I've always struggled with that. It's like it always feels too dark when you're starting. So this way allowed me to start totally dark and chisel that light back in and get that really soft sfumato gradation that I was looking for. And especially your kind of favorite piece in this one, that upper left-hand corner one,
Hmm.
it's really got that bit of that sfumato blend there that is something that I just personally love. I love the play of light. That is light and motion are two of my big things that I like to play with. So that's also why I like charcoal. I love the contrast of dark to light. I love what it just helps illuminate everything off the page, you know.
Yeah.
Even in like that lower right hand one where it's just the eyeball, it's like you
Yeah.
don't see much, but man, it just glows through like the moon in a dark sky.
Right. It
um
does.
so yeah, so I fell in love with charcoal. These were actually some of my first charcoal pieces back in the day. This was probably a year or two after graduating. I did these pieces for I think our first Dysphoria show that we might have done down at the 567's basement. If I didn't do it for that, then it was for the following year's youth Red Tie Affair.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm a sucker for charcoal. I have had a silly thing where whatever charcoal brand I was using on these pieces, I cannot find again. And I've gone back to my professors. Shannon Riddle is actually not just one of our professors, but he is one of the Ocmulgee Artist Guild's original members as well. I even went back to Shannon and I was like, what charcoal was I using back in the day? You know, and he's like,
Yeah,
I don't
really.
know. It could have been this one. It could have been that one. So,
Yeah. Wow.
um, so and then that's where you're constantly living and learning as an artist, right? I mean, you can
That's
do
right.
something
Yeah.
great and perfect one time, and then you
Yeah.
can't replicate it later on because your paper's tooth is a little bit different or your charcoal
That's
brand
right.
is off. And but that's kind of the fun thing about constantly playing and learning too. So I have done a number of other charcoal pieces since these. I most recently finished off for the Macon Bicentennial show. The Guild was in their fourth quarter of the Macon Bicentennial show. I did a five-part series of a whole bunch of local Macon landmarks in charcoal, like
Oh,
Fort
wow.
Hawkins.
I
Yeah.
bet that was interesting. I think I saw
I
one. I think I saw that piece.
you certainly well. So Claudia Hartley,
Claudia.
that is
Yes.
yes, that is
Yes.
in her
Yes.
private collection now.
Yes. She showed that to me. Yeah.
It was such an honor when she had texted me and showed me that she
Yeah.
had got that piece.
That's where I saw
No,
it. She showed it to me. Yeah. That's great.
it was a ton of fun. It was a really challenging thing to do architecture in charcoal. I, of course, looking back
Very
on it, maybe
challenging.
wouldn't have.
Very
Yes, it was.
challenging.
Getting all those straight
I couldn't
lines.
do it, man. I couldn't do it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, what was funny too was I
More
was trying
power
to do
to you,
these.
Colin. I mean, I
It was
couldn't
supposed
do
to be 1 or 2 hour pieces, and they turned into 7 or 8 hours. You know.
it. Yeah. Still working on that one wall. I can't get it straight.
It's just never gonna get straight.
No, no. I tell you, that's great. Oh, wow. This has been exciting. I tell you what, I've really enjoyed, talking with you. I mean, we talked for gosh an hour or so as I said last week, and we've been talking here almost an hour and 15 minutes, just in the
Yeah.
recorded session here, which is awesome. Um, where do you how do you find time to do any of your own personal artwork? I mean, you've got so much going on. Do you find that lots of times I ask, what do you find most challenging? That Is that the most challenging thing that you?
It's a good one. It's definitely
Yeah,
one of the
one up
harder.
there. Yeah.
We've been doing it so long though that I guess, what's nice is, especially back in the day when the guild was over at the Second Street building, we were running quarterly shows, and that worked
Okay.
great for us because you'd run a show, you could take 3 weeks off, decompress from it, and then you had 6 weeks to kind of build everything back up. And then you had another couple of weeks to get your inventory and your frames and
Right.
all of that
Right.
together.
Right.
Right now, we're running almost a show a month. So
Wow.
it has been challenging. I knocked out a series of paintings for our February exhibit, and then we had our March exhibit. And I just had so much on my plate, I couldn't produce for March. But the
Right.
nice thing about the
Right.
Guild in particular is that because we have 10, 12 artists showing all the time, if one artist doesn't make enough, there's another artist who's in their creative zone and they've made too much, right? So it's nice because it kind of ebbs and flows across the group. I with like the February exhibit, I just had that great weekend where I was like, I am going to sit down, I'm going to paint. I'm not going to do more than 5 hours in each painting. I sat down, I did 4 paintings, I did 5 to 6 hours in each painting, had a series of paintings done by Sunday night,
Good.
So
Wow.
there's
Yeah.
that realm, and then there's the realm of, oh crud, it's Wednesday before the show. I have to wrap up these 8 pieces and get
Yeah.
them in there,
Yeah. Yeah. So what
So
show do you, what's going on now there at the gallery? You have a particular artist that you're highlighting or showing the work of, or multiple artists?
at the 567 Center,
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
yes. So right now, this is a great show. I'm thrilled with this, and you will understand why because it's pretty much all Middle Georgia State University over at the 567 right now. Of course, it's my alma mater. Our fine art director, Hannah Hartman, she's a graduate from Middle Georgia State. And then we have 2 artists on display. It's a dual show called I Still Feel Like a Child. It's Jackson Griffith, who is a phenomenal drawer, painter, musician. He has a series of crayon pieces in there, and then to complement and contrast his, because he does a lot of self-portraiture work,
Uh-huh.
we've got Rachel Harrelson in, who is an oil painter. Rachel has actually been studying under and apprenticing with Shannon Riddle. So Shannon is pretty much Rachel's mentor right now. Rachel did a series of oil paintings and sculpture. She did it all pretty much this year, late last year into this year. Um, all dealing with Disney fantasy and kind of the realm
Okay.
where the historical side of the myth meets the Disney personification and what that means to her in life generally. Great
Awesome.
show that will wrap up this Friday. So I'm not sure
Okay.
if that will make
Okay.
it in time for the podcast or not.
Yeah.
But if it does, I would highly encourage people to go check it out. And then we're running right into First Friday for next week, which is going to be Margaret Peth and Brandon Narsing. And it's going to be, it's called Between Smoke and Sky, Between Smoke and something. Um, Margaret is a sculptor, a ceramicist, and so she's got all of these new like smoky ceramic works. And
Okay.
Brandon is a oil painter.
Okay.
So we're gonna have another great dual contrasting show here.
Awesome. Awesome. A lot of things coming up, guys. Got to check out 567 Center there on Cherry Street. I mean, not on Cherry. We talked about being
God,
on
yes,
Cherry, but it's down on
yes,
First
we used
Street.
it. It is now.
And yeah, and down on First Street and everything. But yeah, your hours are limited as far as when you're open now. Is that correct? And so
11 to
something.
4 pretty much, and
Okay.
outside of classes. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And go online, check them out. They got a lot of different classes that are going on, different interests. I mean, they probably have a little bit of everything. So, check them out for sure. I've got some, as I prepped you a little bit at the beginning before we started recording, I've got some
Rapid round.
rapid round little quick questions here. Let me bring them up. So I should know all these by heart, but let me see if I can
We've talked
get
so
these
much
things
that
in.
yeah, I'm sure it knocks it out.
Okay, all right, all right. What's your favorite holiday and why?
I'm gonna probably go with. All right. Well, so this is my holiday. We
Okay.
started a thing called
Yeah.
Soup Night during the pandemic. We needed a way to get friends together that was
Okay.
safe in the pandemic times, and we
Okay.
thought, what can we do? And we were like, oh, crock pots on the front porch, and thus Soup Night was born, and it has become
Oh
my.
man, that's great.
It
Yeah.
is great and it is delicious. And this last year, I think we had 14 different soups come in. We do awards and everything. It's a really, really fun night for me. It's a lot of, close family and friends that we bring in and we just eat soup and lots of bread and,
I love
I
that.
mean, break
You
bread
know,
together.
you create your own activities or events or holidays, within your own group, and I love that. It's just great to be able to create something like that and bring people together.
And
Create your own.
what I love about it too the most is that as it slowly slipped out, I keep hearing from people in the community, and they're like, "Hey, I hear you do a thing called Soup Night," and I'm like,
Soup night. Yeah,
"Yeah,
well,
you might find out, you might not, you know."
that's right. That's right. All right. Okay. So if you could have a superpower, what would it be? He's thinking.
My,
He's
mind
thinking.
reading, my mind reading would be
Mind
a nice
reading?
one. Yeah,
Okay.
that'd be a real handy one. So, you know.
Okay. I'm going to test you. Read my mind. What's the next?
Oh, well,
What's the next
uh-oh.
question?
Am I, I don't know if I'm allowed to say it on the podcast.
No. Okay. No. All right. What's your favorite color?
Blue, but I go back and forth between red sometimes.
Oh, wow. Okay. I
Yep.
haven't heard
Yep.
red. Heard a lot of blues. I'm a blue. I like blue.
Blue is
Uh,
blue's so
yeah.
calm, but I think that's where it
Yeah.
flips. And sometimes red's so energetic that really depends on my amount of anxiety for the day, I guess.
Oh, okay. All right. Describe for us your dream art studio. So, unlimited resources. What would you have in there? What would it look like? Where would it
Gosh,
be?
gosh.
Sky's the limit.
Okay, okay, all right. Well, if yeah, I'd
We're
love
blue
private.
skying.
Yeah,
We're
yeah, right,
blue
exactly.
sky.
I would say nice private Caribbean island, but with a good water source and some trees somewhere. Uh, yeah, nice, lots of windows,
Yeah,
opened up to
yeah,
the ocean breeze.
yeah.
Yep. Have a loft, have a nice giant room. Just I like compartmentalizing. I don't know if you can kind of see behind me, but I actually built in this whole loft system here for myself into
Oh,
my
okay.
studio
Gotcha.
because
Gotcha.
I love to hoard things. So I need a place to put all of my stuff. So, something with really big ceilings, maybe a
Yeah.
lofted area. And,
Uh-huh.
but whenever I need to escape town, I like to go to the ocean. I
I'm with you,
kind of like
brother.
it's like
Yeah.
my blue and red thing though. It's like going to the woods, I can do that. Go to the ocean, both are my happy space. But something about, and I don't even know, there's something about the crash of the ocean, the breeze, the end of the world feeling that I really love. It's so open and it allows my brain to breathe in a very different way. But we also we volunteered and have worked for a local farm out in Haddock, Georgia, called Salamander Springs for years. We met them during college. Debbie was an incredible individual who's run this space for over 30 years now. Uh, that's it's in the middle of the woods. Is nothing like sitting down in the trees and listening to the wind blow through the trees, but I am a nature person, and when
That's
I get
good.
really overwhelmed, falling back into nature tends to
Yeah.
be my comfort. So yeah,
Uh,
so if money is no limit, then definitely a nice little private island would be great.
I appreciate you sharing that because I'm a beach person, ocean person. My wife is too. Thank goodness we, have that in common because
Same, yes.
that's our happy place. And I used to do a lot of backpacking, hiking. I did a little bit on the Appalachian Trail. I enjoyed that when I was younger because I was in better shape than I am now. But it's
It's way
just
easier to walk
neat.
that coastline, yeah.
Yeah. I can do it barefooted, and that kind of
Yes,
thing.
right, with a
But
drink in your hand if need be.
yeah, I mean, it's just I just find, I mean, you can commune with nature. If you're religious and believe in God, you can have a relationship with God out on the beach. You don't have to be in a special building or anything like that. You could just be out there enjoying this wonderful world in which we live, and just
And what
expect.
gets better than that?
I know. I mean, and I've said this before, and people that are the viewers and listeners, fans of the show, and they'll hear this again. But when I go down to the coast, we like to go to Jekyll and St. Simons and everything. My wife grew up in South East Georgia, Jessup, and so when we go down that way and I'm going down the causeway, I tell my wife, I said, "Do you hear that?" She said, "What?" I said, "It's calling my name." She said, "Welcome home, welcome back." It's calling us, pulling us to the coast, and I just love it, and I just love it. So, but anyway,
Jesse and I, our our getaway spot is Tybee. I mean, pretty much when we
yeah,
can run
yeah,
away, we just
yeah,
go straight down,
yeah.
what is it,
You can go
16,
right down
and get off at
16
Tybee.
and be
Yep,
down there, and I
and
have an
like
art.
3 hours or so.
I
And
did
I
a day
love
trip.
Tybee.
Yeah, I did a day trip with a photographer friend of mine, and he and I talked about, yeah, I'll go with you sometime. And he says, "Well, I leave at 3 o'clock in the morning." I said, "Okay," because he likes to try to get a sunrise. I said,
I
"Okay."
say,
So I think it was back in February we went down there in late February, early March. But anyway, um, we got up, picked me up about 3 o'clock. We drove down. It was kind of overcast, didn't really get a good sunrise and that kind of thing, but we went all around the island, took some shots of the lighthouse and that kind of thing, stopped by another little state park on the way back, and we were home by 1 or 1:30 in the afternoon.
I
you
bet,
know
especially if you left at 3 in the morning. Yeah, right.
yeah.
I mean, it's
And
not
it's
that. I used to drive between here and Knoxville all the time, and
oh,
yeah,
okay.
that's a
Yeah,
that's a 4.5 hour drive. That always to me was that's where your leg is like, okay, get me out of this car, So yeah, right.
yes,
I mean, going to
yeah,
Tybee 3 hours is really not
yeah,
too bad.
yeah. But
That's one of
hey,
the things I've always appreciated about Georgia is the fact that you can escape to the mountains and you can escape to the beach all within, a relatively short period of time. And
oh,
I
most
love
most
that.
definitely, most definitely. But I do want to thank you, Colin, for being on the podcast today.
Thank you, Victor, for having me. It was such a pleasure and an honor.
Just a little applause there for having you with us today. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in and catching another episode of Artist Stories of Middle Georgia. It's been wonderful being able to bring all these wonderful, talented people to share their stories and their backgrounds and everything, and what's going on in the Middle Georgia art scene. And there's a lot of wonderful things that are happening, and a lot of wonderful things that are in the works that are coming soon. So check back later. We'll have additional artists on. They'll be telling their stories and what they have going on. But just want to thank everybody. Please like and subscribe, especially on the YouTube side of the house, and also follow us and be a friend on Facebook as well. But Colin, thanks again so much, and thoroughly enjoyed it. And I wish you all the best. Going to keep up with what's going on down there with you and 567. So take care, and we'll catch everybody in the next episode. Bye now.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Artist Stories of Middle Georgia. We really appreciate our audience and would love to hear about other artist stories you'd like for us to share. Please email us or leave a comment. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Please like and subscribe.